Hey everyone, and welcome back to AnzenGuard, the podcast that helps you navigate the digital world and stay safe online. I'm Michael Reynolds, and I am so excited for today's deep dive. We're tackling a question I bet many of you have pondered. Are VPNs really as safe and private as everyone says?
That's a great question.
Or is it all just clever marketing?
There's a lot of hype around VPNs, so it's important to separate fact from fiction.
Exactly, and that's precisely why we're here today. We're going to unpack the truth about VPNs, exploring how they work, what to look for, and whether they truly live up to their privacy promises.
I think what can trip people up is that even understanding what a VPN is can feel complicated. It's like this techie thing that just magically makes you anonymous. It doesn't have to be a mystery.
Totally. So,
Yeah.
let's break it down. Imagine you're sending a super secret message through a tunnel, and that tunnel is completely private, hidden from anyone trying to peek inside. That's essentially what a VPN does.
Love that analogy. It creates a secure, encrypted connection between your device and the internet, shielding your data from prying eyes.
Okay, so it's like a secret tunnel for your data. But how does it actually work to keep things hidden? Enter the magic of encryption.
Exactly. VPNs use something called encryption protocols, which basically scramble your data into unreadable gibberish. Think of it like having a secret code that only you and the intended recipient have the key to decipher.
And what about all this talk about AES 256 encryption being the gold standard? Is that really as strong as it sounds?
It really is. AES 256 is so powerful that it would theoretically take a supercomputer longer than the age of the universe to crack it.
Whoa, that's some serious security. So even if someone manages to intercept my data
Yeah.
while I'm using a VPN,
Yeah.
they won't be able to make sense of it.
Exactly. It'll just look like a random jumble of characters. But encryption is only part of the privacy equation. VPNs also mask your IP address, which is like your digital fingerprint online.
Hold on. You're going to have to explain that one a bit more. What's an IP address, and why is it important for privacy?
Well, every device connected to the internet has a unique IP address. Websites and trackers use this address to identify you and track your online activity. It's like your digital home address, revealing your location and potentially even your identity.
So if a website knows my IP address, they can basically figure out who I am and where I'm located. That sounds a bit creepy.
It can be, especially if you're concerned about your privacy. That's where a VPN comes in handy, by masking your IP address. A VPN makes it look like you're browsing from a different location altogether. It's like putting on a digital disguise.
Okay, so a VPN is like a secret tunnel that encrypts my data and masks my IP address. No wonder people use them.
Right. It's like having a bodyguard for your online activity. And speaking of reasons to use a VPN, let's dive into some of the most common ones. One that's super relevant for anyone who's always on the go is security on public Wi-Fi.
Oh, yeah. Public Wi-Fi, I use it all the time.
Yeah.
At coffee shops, airports, even libraries. But I've always heard it's risky. What's the deal with that?
Public Wi-Fi networks are often unsecured, which means that anyone with the right tools can potentially snoop on your data. It's like sending your information on a postcard instead of in a sealed envelope. Anyone can read it.
Yikes. So
Yeah.
using a VPN while I'm on public Wi-Fi is like putting that information back in a sealed envelope.
Right. Exactly. It adds that extra layer of security and prevents anyone from eavesdropping on your online activity.
That's reassuring.
Oh, so.
Public Wi-Fi security is a big one. What are some other reasons people might use a VPN?
Another common reason is accessing geo-restricted content. Think about streaming services that are only available in certain countries, or websites that are blocked in certain regions. A VPN can bypass those restrictions by making it appear as though you're browsing from a different location.
So if I'm craving a British baking show that's not available in the US, I could use a VPN to virtually teleport myself to the UK and watch it.
That's right. It's like having a digital passport that lets you travel the world, at least from an online perspective.
That's pretty cool. It's not just about entertainment, though.
Right.
I've all heard about businesses using VPNs.
Absolutely. Businesses are increasingly relying on VPNs to protect their sensitive data. Especially with so many employees working remotely these days, it ensures secure communication to employees and helps prevent data breaches. That could be disastrous for a company's reputation and bottom line.
Okay, so we've got personal use cases, like public Wi-Fi security
Yeah.
and accessing geo-restricted content. And then we've got business use cases for protecting sensitive data. VPNs seem pretty versatile.
They really are. But before you rush off to download the first VPN you find, there are some crucial things to consider. especially when it comes to security. We need to figure out what separates a truly safe VPN from one that might actually put your data at risk.
Right. Because if I'm going to trust a VPN with my online activity, I want to be sure it's actually doing its job.
Right.
What should we be looking for in a VPN to ensure it's truly safe and private?
That's the million-dollar question. And thankfully, there are some key features that set the good guys apart from the bad guys. Strong encryption protocols are the foundation of a secure VPN. We've already talked about AES 256, and that's definitely the gold standard.
Okay. So strong encryption is a must-have. What else should we have on our checklist?
Another essential feature is a kill switch. Think of this as a safety net for your data. If your VPN connection ever drops unexpectedly, the kill switch automatically cuts off your internet connection, preventing any data from leaking out.
So it's like a fail-safe mechanism to ensure my data stays protected, even if the VPN connection has a hiccup.
Precisely. You wouldn't want your sensitive information suddenly exposed just because your VPN connection went down for a moment.
Makes sense. Strong encryption and a kill switch.
Yeah.
Got it.
Anything else? A strict no-logs policy is absolutely crucial. This means that the VPN provider doesn't keep records of your online activity. If they don't log your data, they can't hand it over to anyone, even if they're forced to by law enforcement or hackers.
That's a good point. But how can I be sure a VPN provider is actually sticking to their no-logs policy? It's not like I can just peek inside their servers and check.
Right. Okay.
Wow.
That's where independent audits come into play. Look for VPN providers that have undergone independent audits by third-party security experts. These audits verify the VPN's security claims, including their no-logs policy. It's like having an impartial judge check that everything is above board.
Independent audits give me more confidence that a VPN is actually walking the walk when it comes to privacy.
Exactly. It adds a layer of accountability and transparency.
Okay. So far, we've got strong encryption, a kill switch,
Yeah.
a no-logs policy,
Yeah.
and independent audits. Anything else I should be on the lookout for?
You're getting good at this. Another feature that's becoming increasingly popular is RAM-only servers. This basically means that all data is wiped clean every time the server restarts, making it even harder for anyone to access your information.
So that's like a self-destructing message.
Yeah.
Once the server restarts, my data vanishes without a trace.
That's a great way to put it. It adds an extra layer of privacy, especially if you're concerned about long-term data storage.
Wow, this is quite a list. But I'm getting the sense that a truly secure VPN is more than just a bunch of fancy features. It's about the whole package, right?
Absolutely. And that brings us to an important point, the myth of complete anonymity. While a VPN significantly enhances your privacy, it's important to remember that it's not a magic invisibility cloak. You're not completely untraceable online just because you're using a VPN.
Wait, seriously, I thought a VPN made me anonymous online. What are some things that could still compromise my privacy, even if I'm using a VPN?
Well, for one thing, if you log into websites or apps,
Yeah.
those services will still know who you are. Your browsing history might be hidden from your ISP, but the websites themselves can still track your activity.
That makes sense. So it's not like a VPN erases all traces of my online presence.
Exactly. It's more like it adds a layer of protection and makes it much harder for third parties to track you, but it does make you completely invisible.
Okay, so even with a VPN, I need to be mindful of my online habits and be careful about what information I share.
Absolutely. And another thing to keep in mind is that some VPN providers themselves might collect data on their users, even if they claim to have a no-logs policy. That's why it's crucial to scrutinize those privacy policies carefully.
Yeah.
You want to make sure they're not logging your data
Yeah.
or sharing it with third parties, defeating the whole purpose of using a VPN in the first place.
That's right. It's like hiring a bodyguard
Yeah.
who secretly reports back to the people you're trying to avoid. So
Yeah.
even with a VPN, we're not completely off the hook
Yeah.
when it comes to online privacy.
Exactly. And here's another reality check. Even with a VPN, malware and other security vulnerabilities can still exist
Yeah.
on your device. It's like having a fortress with a back door that's left
Right.
wide open.
Okay, so a VPN isn't a magical cure-all for all online threats, but it sounds like it can be a powerful tool when used correctly and paired with good cybersecurity habits.
I agree. It's about having a holistic approach to online safety.
I like that. A holistic approach. Speaking of things that might sound appealing, but aren't always what they seem, let's talk about free VPNs. They're tempting, but are they really a good idea?
While the allure of free is strong when it comes to VPNs, it often comes with hidden costs. Think of it like this. If you're not paying for the product, you are the product.
Wow, that's a sobering thought. What kind of hidden costs are we talking about with free VPNs?
Well, for starters, free VPNs often have weaker encryption, which puts your data at risk. They might also have data caps and slower speeds, which can be incredibly frustrating if you're trying to stream a movie or download a large file. But the biggest concern is that some free VPNs might collect and sell your data to third parties, the very thing you're trying to avoid. By using a VPN...
Wait, so I could be using a free VPN to protect my privacy, but the VPN provider is actually selling my data behind my back. That seems counterproductive, to say the least.
It is. And in some extreme cases, free VPNs have even been known to inject malware onto users' devices. That's why it's so important to choose a reputable, paid VPN service.
Yeah.
If you're serious about protecting your privacy and security.
Okay. So free VPNs might be tempting, but they're often a case of you get what you pay for.
Exactly. And that brings us to another important point. Even big-name VPNs can be vulnerable. There have been real-world examples of VPN breaches that have exposed user data.
Really? But aren't those big companies supposed to have top-notch security? What happened?
Take the NordVPN breach back in 2018, for example. While it was a limited breach, it showed that even well-known VPN providers aren't immune to security issues.
So VPN provider is perfect, no matter how big or reputable they are.
Exactly. It's always important to do your research and choose a VPN with a strong track record of security and transparency.
Okay. So we need to be realistic about the limitations of VPNs, even the paid ones. We've talked about a lot of technical details about VPNs.
Encryption, kill switches, no logs policies. But now I'm wondering, how much of this stuff do I really need to understand? To choose a good VPN, do I need to be a tech expert? That's a great question. While it's helpful to understand the basics, you don't need to be a cybersecurity guru to make an informed decision. Focus on the key principles we've discussed. Strong encryption, a no-logs policy, independent audits, and a good reputation. There are plenty of resources available online that can help you compare different VPN providers and make a choice that aligns with your needs and comfort level.
That's reassuring. It sounds like choosing a VPN is more about finding a trustworthy provider and understanding the basics rather than getting bogged down in all the technical jargon.
Exactly. And speaking of trust, let's move on to a topic that's often overlooked, but is crucial: VPN ownership, jurisdictions, and the complexities of trust.
Okay. This sounds intriguing. What's the connection between VPNs and trust?
Well, the location of a VPN company matters. Different countries have different laws regarding data retention and user privacy. If a VPN company is located in a country with invasive data laws, they might be forced to hand over user information to the government, even if they have a no-logs policy.
So, even if a VPN provider promises to protect my data, they might be legally obligated to turn it over to the authorities if they're based in a certain country. That's a bit unnerving.
It is something to consider, and it gets even more complex when you factor in the ownership structure of some VPN companies. Some are owned by larger conglomerates with complex business interests, which can make it difficult to determine their true commitment to user privacy. You have to ask yourself, who's really in control of my data?
This is starting to sound like a detective novel. Do you have any examples of how these ownership structures can get tricky?
Sure. Remember the situation with Cape Technologies and ExpressVPN? Cape Technologies, which owns ExpressVPN, has a history of developing software that some consider to be adware. This raised concerns among some privacy advocates about potential conflicts of interest.
So, it's not just about the VPN itself, but also about the company behind it, their values, and the legal framework they operate under.
Exactly. And this all circles back to the need for thorough research. When choosing a VPN, don't just take their marketing claims at face value. Dig into their track record, their ownership structure, and the jurisdictions they operate under.
Okay. So it's a deep dive in every sense of the word. But it sounds like it's worth the effort. If I want to find a VPN I can truly trust with my online activity.
It is, and it's an important one. Your online privacy is worth the effort.
I completely agree. You know, we've talked a lot about the technical aspects of VPNs, but I think it's important to step back. And remember, the technology is just one piece of the puzzle when it comes to online safety.
I agree. What other pieces are there?
Well, we can have the most secure VPN in the world, but if we're not careful about our own online behavior, we can still put our privacy at risk. Think about things like using strong passwords, being wary of phishing scams, and being mindful of what information we share online.
Absolutely. It's about being proactive and taking responsibility for our own online security. It's not just about the tools we use, but also about the choices we make.
Right. It's about having a mindset of security awareness, both online and offline.
I love that. A mindset of security awareness. It's about being informed, being vigilant, and being proactive.
Exactly. So, for our listeners who are ready to level up their online privacy game, what are some practical steps they can take to find the right VPN?
Start by thinking about your own needs and what you're most concerned about. Are you mainly concerned about security on public Wi-Fi? Do you want to access geo-restricted content? Are you worried about your ISP tracking your browsing history? Once you have a clear idea of your needs, then you can start researching different VPN providers.
Okay, so first,
Yeah.
define my needs, then what?
Dive into research, read reviews, compare features, and most importantly, read those privacy policies carefully. Don't be afraid to reach out to the VPN provider directly and ask questions. A reputable provider will be transparent and willing to address your concerns.
That's a great tip. And it sounds like finding the right VPN isn't a one-time task. It's an ongoing process of staying informed and adapting as needed.
Right, absolutely. The VPN landscape is constantly evolving, with new providers emerging and existing providers updating their features and policies. It's important to stay up to date and be willing to adjust your approach as needed.
Okay, so finding a VPN is like a relationship. It requires research, communication, and a willingness to adapt over time.
That's a great analogy. And just like in any relationship, trust is essential. Choose a VPN provider that you feel confident about, one that aligns with your values and priorities.
Well said. We've covered a lot of ground here today. We've explored what VPNs are, how they work, the reasons people use them, the key features to look for, and the complexities of VPN ownership and trust. It's been quite a journey.
It has. And I hope our listeners feel empowered to make informed decisions about their online privacy.
I know I feel a lot more knowledgeable about VPNs now, that's for sure. But it's not just about the information. It's about what we do with it.
Absolutely. Knowledge is power, especially when it comes to online privacy. The more you understand about how things work, the better equipped you'll be to protect yourself.
So true. We've given our listeners a lot to think about today. Any final words of wisdom to leave them with?
Yes, I'd encourage everyone to remember that online privacy is an ongoing journey, not a destination. It's about staying informed, making conscious choices, and adapting as the digital landscape evolves. Don't be afraid to do your own deep dive into the world of VPNs and find a solution that works for you.
I love that. Keep learning, keep exploring, and keep those digital defenses strong.
Exactly. And remember, you don't have to do it alone. There are tons of resources available online, including reviews, comparisons, and expert guides to help you navigate the world of VPNs.
And speaking of resources, we've got you covered. Be sure to check out our show notes for links to some helpful websites and articles that can help you continue your VPN research.
And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the AnzenGuard podcast for more insights and tips on staying safe in the ever-changing digital world. We're here to be your guides, your cybersecurity buddies, and your source for all things digital safety.
We release new episodes every week, so hit that subscribe button and join our community of savvy, security-conscious listeners.
And if you enjoyed this episode, we'd love it if you could leave a rating or review on your favorite podcast platform. It really helps us reach more people and spread the word about the importance of online safety.
That's right. Every little bit helps us make the digital world a safer place.
And as always, we love hearing from our listeners. So if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions for future episodes, please don't hesitate to reach out to us.
You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Just search for AnzenGuard.
We're always happy to chat and connect with our amazing community.
Well, that about wraps up our deep dive into the world of VPNs. We hope you found it informative, insightful, and maybe even a little bit entertaining.
Remember, your online privacy is worth protecting, and knowledge is your best defense.
Thanks for joining us on the AnzenGuard podcast. I'm Michael Reynolds.
And I'm Laura Wilson.
Until next time, stay safe, stay informed, and stay vigilant.